Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. The show is brought to you by DraftKings. In this hour, next 30 minutes, we'll hit all 6 games that we have this weekend. At the bottom of the hour, Indiana Jet was a winner. That's what he goes by. Of Circa Survivor. He was one of the 4 who took it down. They split $9.2 million. He's going to be in studio coming up at that time. An hour from right now, Adam Chernoff's going to be on the program. We talked a lot about the weather to begin the show today. -30 potentially at Arrowhead tomorrow night. On Sunday, of course, cold, heavy winds potentially, lots of snow. The game that kicks off wildcard weekend, weather is not going to be a factor because it's at Houston indoors. They take on the Browns. Browns are 2-point favorites. The Texans took some sharp money yesterday in that game. Totals at 44.5. Again, the Browns are 8-0 to the over on the road this year. Delpit's out. Ward banged up his knee this week in practice. We talked to Tony Rizzo from Cleveland earlier in the show. He said that it looks like he's probably going to go. Bunch of guys are questionable for the Texans. Here's the angle that I talked about before the break for what it's worth. Great numbers this week, as always, at vsin.com. You go there, click on NFL homepage. Steve Mackinnon has it, the analytics report. In the last 18 wildcard games, matching teams that were not in the playoffs the year before, home teams are 10 games below 500 straight up, and they're 12 games below 500 ATS, 20%. That goes back to 2006. That qualifies for this game and the Rams-Detroit game on Sunday night.
There's a lot going on here, my friend. You got Flacco. Again, this is astonishing. If they win this game, he passes Brady for the record, most road playoff wins. He has 10 total. He's 5-0 straight up in ATS in the wild card round. You also have this angle. If Evan Abrams does a great job. You have the quarterback with playoff experience against the quarterback who's making his first playoff start. So you fade Tua, Stroud, Rudolph, and Love. Going back since 2002, that is 17-35-1 ATS and 17-36 straight up. You fade the quarterback making his first playoff start. There's that angle. And you also have this defense, which night and day, home and road. And we'll see C.J. Stroud had an unbelievable season. 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, the weapons that he has. Even when guys were in and out, can they slow down Schultz? Can they slow down Collins, who was great against the Colts? I was concerned what I watched Saturday where Taylor was gashing him on the ground and they couldn't get stops. Does that happen here? Paul Charchian gave out the under with Ford. But maybe it's, why not just sit back and throw? Because it was so good, even though guys were out. But what Cooper did going for 250 and how this guy has just torched everybody in this 4-game run that you talked about with all these touchdowns and all these yards, which what he's able to do. So there's a lot going on here. But to your point, too, what you said to Rizzo, you're number 1 in turnovers. So there's been a lot of good with Flacco. And even Sorin Petro from Kansas City thinks, I'm not buying it. Flacco's going to turn it over, and
right.
The Browns too many turnovers. And maybe that does happen, if not tomorrow, maybe in their second game.
Yeah, I think he's going to have at least an INT in this game. It looked pretty the first time they played. When they went up and down the field, he threw for a zillion yards. But again, 5 INTs so far since he came back.
But it's 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns the last 4 games. This is nuts what he's done.
Now,
it's
I think
insanity.
it depends on how many INTs will he throw. What if he throws 3 in the game?
Possible.
That could happen.
He was bad in the Bear game. There was good and bad in the Bear game.
They were extremely fortunate to win that game. I would ask you this, too, about C.J. Stroud. I think we can all agree that he is the atypical rookie quarterback, right? He was on the numbers that he had and he was on pace for, he was playing better than Andrew Luck did, numbers-wise, in his rookie season when the Colts made the playoffs. Doesn't it seem like he's the outlier as a rookie quarterback? And I know it's his first year, but for any rookie or first-year quarterback, doesn't it seem like Stroud already has this big game experience underneath him?
Yeah, if I pick one, I would, yes. Yeah, I think Rudolph would have a tough game. I think Love, the moment could be too big. Tua between the weather and on the road. Miami 2-12 straight up last 14 as a road dog.
Yep.
So, I think Tua could struggle. So, if there's one guy who's like, I'm fine, I'm at home, I'm going to go off to hell with experience, I would say it's C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, and he had a lot of big moments this year as a rookie. The Buccaneers game, they're down with no time left. He threw for 5 touchdowns in that game. He had other big spots. Last week was enormous on the road. Had to have it for your playoff lives. They get some help with the Jacksonville loss, but they win the division. Also, I wonder Can we put any stock into what he was like against Georgia last year in the playoff game? I don't remember too many people giving Ohio State a shot against that defense.
Should have won a game.
And they should have. And they went up and down the field until Marvin Harrison got hurt. Yep. They were going to win that game. They scored 40-plus on Georgia last year. How many teams could do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like none? But that guy did. So, maybe he's completely... that it has zero impact. The moment does not affect him whatsoever in the spot.
Yeah, it's too bad they only got the one primetime game or the one. They're always stuck in that early slot.
That's right.
The whole season. Stefanski's 8-1 straight up on short rest. You have that angle, and you also have the angle where they sat everybody, so they're well rested as well. But what has happened here on the road? Worst in the league, giving up 30 a game. 31, 36, 29, 31, 20. 38. Couldn't stop the Colts. I mean, it's absolute madness what's happened here, and the difference. In their road games averaged 54 points per game. The first meeting had 58. This should be an over.
So if you had to bet the game, then, would that be your play? Forget about your hedging spot that you're in.
Well, I still like the Browns, though, but it's a little bit of a hedge, right? But I still like the Browns in the game, but that's, to me, how does this stay under? There's just too much firepower here, and Cleveland's giving up 30 a game on the road.
So and even, over would be it.
Yeah, right. And considering what Cleveland did, it's just going to be throw.
No,
this is they're not going to try to trick you. Cleveland's coming out throwing the ball.
Yeah, not only the points, right? That's alarming, jumps off the page. How does a team with this good of a defense, on paper, how do they have 32 sacks at home and 17 sacks on the road?
Uh-huh.
Haven't we heard our entire lives defense travels? Good offensive line play travels?
Right.
Their defense hasn't traveled for a second this year. Why is that?
I know. I need an explanation here. You're number one at home, but the worst in the league on the road.
I don't know. It's real. I can't wait to hear what Adam Chernoff's going to have to say about that coming up in about 45 minutes here on the program. Dolphins at Chiefs, the game Saturday night. Again, good luck to everybody across the country. If you work at a bar, if you're going to a bar, trying to find this game on Saturday night. I bet the Chiefs minus 3.5. That number touched 5 earlier in the week. I also bet under 44.5. That's down to like 43 right now. The Dolphins, again, vsin.com. Good numbers here. Dolphins are 11-4 ATS and 6-1 in their last 7 rematch games. Under is 13. Think about this for a second. 13-2 last 15 KC home games as a favorite. They're 7-1 to the under this year as a home favorite.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I more than anything, more than the weather, I like the Chiefs because of all the injuries to the Dolphins.
Oh, yeah. How do you overcome this? Van Ginkel, Chubb, Phillips, Baker, good. And then you're in the elements. So
Howard's out.
Yeah, Howard's out too.
Elliott, Holland, Mostert, Waddle, all questionable.
They should have Mostert and Waddle, but you don't know.
I think they will.
But you don't know. You never know. Is McDaniel overrated?
No, I'm not going to say that.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I would put it this way. Would you like to have... Who's your favorite... If the Vikings were still your favorite team, would you be okay with him being the head coach?
Yeah.
I would take him in a heartbeat.
They imploded, though. They blew that division.
They've also had a zillion injuries, so they can't... I mean, it's too much.
2-12 straight up, last 14 as a road dog. You know about the weather.
2 was overrated.
Okay, that's fair. They've lost 10 in a row when it's under 40 degrees. You know about that. You also have this incredible angle where the Kansas City's played 15 straight home playoff 15 straight home playoff games. The 16-3 under run at home in the playoffs. This year, the second half, 15-2 under. Second halves, 16-1 under. Every fourth quarter went under but one. Number 1 in draft passes, though. Couldn't catch a cold, right? It's going to be 30 below. Could be a recipe for disaster.
Right, so how does that change then?
They're only allowing 17 points per game, though, as well. Here's why I made the McDaniel comment. Second half, last 3 games, 15 total points, Miami. What's going on here? Why is the offense struggling, even with the injuries? What's going on with Tua?
Tua was horrendous against the Bills.
He was. Now, what happens with Kelsey? In the playoffs, career, 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns in 18 games. Kid's been on a milk carton here going back. So does he get open? Does he get juiced up and get something going with the playoffs now? Turn the page, the experience, and Taylor Swift and yada, yada, yada. But it's 56.5. This guy was just a lock ATM machine going over his props, and he's going to have 100 yards.
5.5 catches.
Yeah, against Jacksonville last year. He's not even running routes, and he's wide open.
So you want to buy low on this guy when he's in terrible form, and it's going to be
below.
Who do
I trust?
30 below?
Who do I trust? Don't trust Tony. Come on. I don't. Watson, Rice. I don't trust Watson. Is it Rice? Who am I throwing to? This offense has been a joke all year.
I'll go Pacheco. I think this is
out of the backfield.
It's going to have to be a good game for Pacheco, and maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a showing in this game.
I'm on the Chiefs. I'm also on the under. I don't understand how the total can be as high as 45, and now we're sitting at 43.5 with 30 below. I don't understand.
I also go back to the game in Germany, though, for the one time they did play this year.
It was ugly.
I thought Dolphins gave that game away.
Yes, they did.
I thought they should have won that game.
Chiefs also shut out in the second half.
That was the MO for the team the entire year.
So this is a problem. How much do they miss Bieniemy? What's going on with these offense? You can't put everything on the wide receivers. There is nothing down the field. There are no explosive plays.
No, and I can't imagine that. That's why would that? Maybe we're all wrong about this, and it's a shootout tomorrow night, and they go up and down the field. I just have a very tough time imagining that when it's going to be that cold outside. And history suggests you don't get high-scoring games, a lot of points on the board when the game is played in 0 degrees or worse than that.
You want to get nuts? You want to get really nuts? No touchdowns, 80-1.
No, I looked for that already this week.
Okay.
I
throwing it out there.
You saw that already on the board. Okay. I was looking like on Wednesday, couldn't find it.
The other thing, guys have been sending it in too. This scoreless quarter, you can bet. The Bills game and the Chiefs game. Will there be a scoreless quarter? You can parlay that. You can just bet it straight. I mean, that's a juicy return as well. With these 2 weather games, yeah. It's plus 260 I saw in the Chiefs game. And you got that. You have all these scenarios here where it's like with the weather, I don't think they see a lot of points.
More wildcard next. Most people won't realize this team is 12-2-1 ATS versus teams with a winning record, including 5-1 this year.
Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Get unlimited access to the vsin.com/picks page. I'm on the Steelers. I'm on the Chiefs. I'm on the under. Mention your picks for more VSiN Pro picks. That was a Ron Burgundy moment there. Follow the money. Get 10% off the annual subscription. Use promo code FTM. Promo code FTM. Go get it now. Become a subscriber now.
You brought up a prop in the first hour today, and that caught my attention, as we tell people all the time to shop around. Evidently, there was a book that opened up, will each team score 1+ rushing touchdown in all 6 games this weekend? They opened up 380-1. Down to 150-1 now, maybe dropping even further than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to have multiple outs.
Well, that goes back to, we do this every Monday night, Thursday night for the standalone primetime games. Longest touchdown. There's been games I've seen, longest touchdown of the game, I've seen 39.5 and 34.5 in the same game.
Right.
So stuff like that, but that's alarming. That is nuts.
Yeah.
The difference there with that, but you'll see that with some of these props, and good luck to everyone out there this weekend.
All right, Packers playing at the Cowboys. Dallas down to a 7-point favorite. Total is 50.5. Prescott is 4-7 straight up, 3-8 ATS in January in his career. Over is 7-0. Last 7 Dallas home games as a favorite of more than 7 points. 4-0 this season. Jair Alexander did not practice. Jenkins on the O-line did not practice. A.J. Dillon did not practice. The Cowboys had some guys miss practice yesterday. Smith and Martin on the O-line. Gilmore was limited at cornerback. I just can't get over, and I can't get the Carolina, nor can I get the Buccaneers game against Green Bay out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what it was like the games after that, because that was Mayfield going to Lambeau and putting a perfect quarterback rating on the board, which has only happened by one other quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, in the history of Lambeau. Heard that stat this week. And then what Bryce Young showed for the only time in his rookie season, it happened against Green Bay's defense. Now they play on turf in a dome against Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. I can't get that out of my head. And I like the favorite. I like the over. I know it's square as it gets, but I have to just... I think the money coming in on Green Bay is I don't understand it.
Well, it's been horrendous for Dak in the playoffs, and Dallas going back since 1997 and the 3-12-1 ATS run. McCarthy's job on the line, I think. He better win this game. But
that's what scares me.
Yep,
I got to back this guy in a playoff game.
Yep, 16 in a row at home straight up. 30 points in every game but one. They've been unbelievable, and Dak has been cooking at home. Green Bay also has the youngest roster in the NFL. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb said it. Experience is everything. I agree with him. I think the moment could be too big for Love, but he has been awesome go. I don't know what happened to Tommy DeVito, Madon, but 18-1 touchdown INT ratio going back. Here's what I talked about earlier. Bill Barnwell has this ESPN. Green Bay defense, last. Throws between the numbers. Dak, fourth best, passes over the middle. They also loved it with the slot and what CeeDee Lamb can do from the slot as well, and I think CeeDee Lamb's going to go nuts. You mentioned giving up all those points and what Mayfield did and what Bryce Young did. That is definitely cause for concern. But I'm averaging 37 points a game at home here, and what I've done and how good they've looked at home in the 16 in a row at home between the Alexander injury, a bad defense, how young they are. I don't think they're that good. It is a good story, but it certainly was a roller coaster. How bad Love was and then how well he's played down the stretch. But, I mean, I'd be shocked if Dallas loses this game. I really would.
Would you be surprised if Mike McCarthy, based on how it ended in Green Bay, I still think he's bitter about it. He doesn't want to talk about it still to this day. Just to, put the screws to that organization if he was still, trying to score late in the game.
Yeah, I could see that. Yep. We'll do a full breakdown coming up. Green Bay is horrendous on special teams.
Oh, yes,
is this every year?
Again, yeah.
They're 31st in special teams, DVOA. And I know you're concerned about Carlson.
You have
as
to be.
You should be. Oh, yeah.
I don't know how they bring him back next year, and he's a rookie.
I don't know what the Rams are doing with Maher.
Well, that's the other. They're the worst team.
That's right.
In special teams.
Well, that's a Green Bay's horrendous on punts. But 28 years, the Cowboys haven't made an NFC title game. This guy might have to win 2 games. And I listened to Michael Lombardi yesterday and watched the show. You have to change and think about everything. This is like Lombardi said, this is Haley's Comet in terms of who's available now. And as Mike Florio tweeted yesterday, stop with the just looking at teams that didn't make the playoffs. There are 14 teams left. 13 of them are going to lose. Mm-hmm. So whether it's Dallas, Philadelphia, Harbaugh's available, Vrabel's available, the GOAT's available.
Yeah.
You have to rethink everything.
That's
every single team.
No, that was,
maybe a few, San Francisco, whatever. A coaching change is on the table.
That was our message to the Bears yesterday. When they announced that Eberflus is going to come back, we're like, whoa, Cowboy. Do you realize who now is available for your organization potentially? You need to make some phone calls here. And I would say that I agree with Florio. And we had Adam Jones on from WEEI in Boston yesterday, and he's like, that scenario is maybe out there. If the Cowboys lose, watch maybe Belichick to Dallas. Who knows? Seems maybe a little far-fetched to me, but I like the way that Lombardi phrased that. This is the best off-season, biggest names of our lifetime.
It has been
who are available.
Yeah, Lombardi's right. And it also has been the Mutual Admiration Society lately between Jones and Belichick. This is where I like the angle. Love against Dak. The first-time playoff start against the guy with experience. And, again, fading the guy making his first playoff start at 17-35 and 1 ATS, even though Dallas has been a horror show in the playoffs and trying to cover numbers. Mm-hmm. But they should be able to do whatever they want offensively. I mean, they've been so good at home.
When Paul Charchian came on yesterday, and he had great breakdowns on several players, one was Jordan Love. I got on Jordan Love at 232.5, Paul, passing yards over. 232.5. It's up to 248.5. The reason being, super high total, indoors. I like Dallas in the game, and Green Bay is going to be throwing to get back into this thing. Down the stretch for Jordan Love, 316, 256. There's a 219 in there that would not get the job done. 284, 218 would be a loser, but 267, 268, 322, 289. That goes all the way back to week number 10 against Pittsburgh. The guy has been on fire. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league.
I'm going to put pressure on him, though.
Well,
they're going to bring the house, and he could crumble.
If it's 28-7 Dallas, I don't care. All I got to do is get over 232.5.
I'm not saying the blow. I'm saying, yes. But also, what if it's a close game and he struggles and it's just it turns out to maybe be low scoring and he's frustrated by what Quinn's drawn up.
Then I lose a bunch of bets.
Okay. You're not concerned about the pressure? I'm not talking about...
I have to be, yeah. But I mean...
I'm talking about with pass rush. I'm not talking about, the moment's too big.
I get that, yeah. Okay. Yep. Here's the game I was talking about before the break. It's Rams at the Lions. I don't think most people would realize that the Detroit Lions are 12-2-1 ATS last 15 games against teams with a winning record. And they were 5-1 this year. Great numbers against Steve Mackin and VSiN.com. Over is 12-3 last 15 Detroit home games as a favorite. 6-2 this year. The Goff-Campbell combo in Detroit, 32-14 ATS, 69.6%. How much are you concerned about Sam Laporta? Did not practice again yesterday.
Yeah, he's getting better, but that's a cause big time injury if they don't have him. Also, I'm concerned more about Dan Campbell. Is he going to lose his mind doing this stuff on feel and gut and faking punts from your 15 and going for it 4th and 8 from midfield, stuff like that, like he did against Chicago? Dan Campbell can't lose his mind. It's going to be an insane atmosphere, though. And Mike Palm, VP of Circa, made a good point about what it was like for that Saturday game when they played Denver. The place was a madhouse. This is the first time ever, by the way, that Cleveland and Detroit are favored in playoff games in the same season.
What could go wrong?
That's right. So you have that, too. But I outlined everything with Stafford. Teams over 500, 33-67 straight up. And what's happened here, and can't beat good teams. But you're talking about two of the worst teams' pass defense as well. Who's getting stops in this game? I don't see it. But the Rams, as we talked about, worst special teams in the league. Why would you bring back Maher? Oh, he just missed an extra point last week, too, by the way. So, and remember what happened last year in the playoffs. And this guy with the yips. There were actual props after he missed, what was it, 4 against Tampa? Would he miss one against San Francisco? First one, not even go. The guy missed like 5 extra points in the playoffs, whatever it was. So they're going with this guy? I can't believe this. This could decide a game. I can't believe McVay and the Rams and Steed decided to do this. Yeah. But they've won 7 of 8. And the only loss was in overtime against Baltimore, and they blew that game. They are hot. It's a tough game. But you're right. It's a public dog. Everyone likes the Rams in this game. That's what scares me.
I will admit that I have a short-term memory problem. I remember being on the air. That was recently. It was only a couple weeks ago, right? Cowboys, Lions, the fiasco at the end of that game. And what got lost was how both coaches butchered the end of that game because of the fiasco by the referees.
McCarthy was terrible.
McCarthy was terrible. I thought Campbell was terrible. And I said, can you imagine betting on either one of these guys in the playoffs? And I like the Lions and the Cowboys this weekend. I should have my head examined.
Yep. Well,
that wasn't that long ago. But based on the matchups, the way it fell,
sure.
I mean...
Total 51.5. Since week 10, the Rams are averaging 30 a game. Detroit averages more than 30 a game at home. I mean, and you're talking about pass defense, 27th and 31st.
Yeah.
Ooh, this could be wild.
Up next, one of the 4 entries who won more than $2 million in Circa Survivor. He goes by Indiana Jet on Twitter. He'll be in studio. How did he manage his life with that much money on the line and it being the only thing he could think about down the stretch? We'll ask him coming up next.
With Omaha Steaks, you'll fall in love at first bite with their tender steaks, juicy burgers, air-chilled chicken, and more. You're going to love every bite. It's Omaha Steaks guarantee. And for a limited time, when you go to omahasteaks.com/VSiN, you'll get 4 free air-chilled boneless chicken breast and 4 free rich, juicy, boneless pork ribs, Mitch. Come on. Minimum purchase may apply. omahasteaks.com/VSiN. Get up there.
I get extremely hungry during the show. We have really oddball hours.
Bagel run?
I'm not afraid to have a steak at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I'll do it.
I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Get a pork chop right now.
That's like our lunch half the time.
Yeah.
Pork chop, mashed potatoes, whatever. I don't care what it is.
Support them, guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a lot of fun. He goes by Indiana Jet. His name is Rob. He joined us in studio here today. The ceremony for the winners of Circa Millions and Circa Survivor will be tonight at the D here in downtown Las Vegas. If you're in town, I'm going to be there tonight. I think it should be a lot of fun. Rob, you split it. First of all, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Unbelievable job by you.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
How much did this consume your life from whatever week it was? Like, I don't know, week 8, week 10, week 12 on to
It was really after Thanksgiving. When Detroit lost and the field got cut in half, I think we were down to like about 200 contestants. I was like, oh, this is getting serious. Last year, I'd made it to the final 107. I went out the same week on the same team as Pauly did last year, and it was down to like 170.
Yeah.
But it was still week 7, so it was, there was no light at the end of the tunnel then. Once we got past Thanksgiving and the field had narrowed down, then it became, just so intensive. Like, it kind of consumed my daily life, just always checking Twitter and what news is breaking and who am I going to pick, and it was intense.
Were you losing sleep at night?
I was, until I started taking Benadryl every night.
Good advice for next year for people who are making deep runs.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
Benadryl a night for sure.
You've been tweeting and watching the show from day one, so you have great taste. But the other, because you seem like you're really sharp in terms of sports betting, and because I was reaching out a couple weeks ago. Do you want to come on or what? And every time you're like, nope, sorry, I decline. I haven't won anything yet. Nothing's over. I got a long ways to. We were still in the contest together, and I was reaching out to you. Said, listen, we got a long ways to go. Why? Other people were doing interviews. Other people were talking about what was going on. Was that superstition or just realizing the gambling gods? And I do have a long ways to go.
For me, it was all of that combined. But I always believed in the curse of Billy the Kid. That guy came on your show 2 years ago and spit in the face of the gambling gods.
Yes.
He bet the alt line on the Chiefs that day, right, and covered that. But it seemed like ever since then, anybody that came on any of the VSiN shows before they had won anything in Survivor were finding themselves out like the next week. And so there was just no way. And I felt bad because when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. And then I heard you guys on the radio the next day, and I was like, oh my God, I hope I wasn't short with those guys. I just haven't won anything. There's
no,
nothing
not
to
at all.
talk
I mean,
about.
in fact, when we reach out to people, we have like a brief conversation, like, should we do this?
Yeah.
We feel a little bad. Like,
The girl.
I believe in
woman.
all that stuff.
Yeah, what happened
Yeah.
to the woman? I forgot her name.
Jessica Hearns.
Jessica
The
Hearns.
next week, she came in studio.
Then the DeVito crap.
But
happened.
she's also a local realtor here, so I can see her coming on. That's plus EV for her to come on to begin with. Just getting herself out there and marketing.
Yeah.
So I felt bad when she went out. Although Paul, I never actively rooted against any of the other contestants. But I might have bought some chicken cutlets that night when Green Bay was playing the Giants.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That did a lot of damage. Did you have any close calls?
I was on the Steelers Week 10 against Pittsburgh. They had to intercept Jordan Love twice in the final two possessions in the end zone to pull that game out. And then I was on that Baltimore game back in Week 14.
Was that against the Rams?
Against the Rams, yeah.
Oh, wow. What were you like?
Are you thinking tie there too?
Oh,
Remember, you got to
absolutely.
win the game.
Oh, absolutely. I'm worried about everything.
You don't get the ball to start. It's Rams ball.
And that's why, I think at one point in time when we were communicating on Twitter, I was like, I'm smart enough to know that I'm lucky to make it this far, and I'll be lucky to win next weekend. Because you never know when a tipped pass or somebody falling down or a bad call by an official. In that case, the bad call helped me, but you never know. You can't control that. You can crunch all the numbers and do all your research, and you can't control that.
Okay, so when that game's being played and it's that tight in overtime, are you scrambling to try to find, is this game going to end in a tie? Live bet that, because ties lose here in Survivor. You're out.
I did not do any hedging whatsoever until week 17.
Wow.
I was pretty confident in my picks. Going through the whole process and the whole hedging thing to me, I guess it's, it all depends on who you are as a person. It's what's right for you. But I felt like if you start hedging too early, you can find yourself in a huge hole that you can't make up. So, I hedged a little bit in week 17.
Who'd you have in that week?
I had Houston. Hedged a little bit in week 17, lost that bet. They covered the spread. I hedged last week a little bit. They covered the spread. But with those other two guys on the Raiders, I came back over the top and put a pretty big bet on the Raiders, and I basically won back all the money that I had lost hedging.
Good move, because you had the Bengals game early.
Yep.
It was you and another entry who were on it. So then it was down to 2 potentially here if the Raiders lost. So then you had to, and that's how you got it back.
So I'm taking, it was just me on the entry, so I'm taking the clean 2.3. It's, it worked out for me.
Good job.
Incredible.
Why were you on? Everyone was New England at Denver Christmas Eve. Why not take Denver there with their playoff lives? What got you off Denver at home to New England?
Yeah, that was another funny story. So Denver was never a consideration for me that week. I did not trust the Broncos. I thought they were doing everything with smoke and mirrors. The two things that New England did best on offense, run the ball and the short passing game, particularly to the tight ends, were the two things that the Broncos had trouble defending. And I just didn't trust Belichick. It was predicted to be a bad weather game. I could see Belichick just shortening the game up. So it was never really a consideration for me. I was on the Bears from day one that game. My second pick was probably going to be Green Bay, but they had too many injuries, so I faded off of them. But it's funny, I'm originally from New York, originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I was driving from Indiana back to New York that Friday to visit family. And Joneser comes out on Twitter, and he's like, I'm taking the Bears. And then I think he was in with Fezzik and Krakenberger because they like retweeted it, and they're like, "Oh, Jonesers, he's on the Bears this weekend." I knew exactly what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. They were trying to push anybody who was thinking about taking the Bears off of that, and I'm like, "Not me, fellas. This is my pick." That was my strategy the whole way. I didn't care if 10 people were on the same team as me or it was just going to be me.
You didn't, okay.
I took the team that I thought was going to get me to next week, and I was going to worry about next week when next week showed up.
So you did not fade Denver on purpose thinking that most people were going to be on that.
No, I didn't like the matchup. I didn't like the matchup.
Okay, that's good to file away for next year then.
No.
Were you surprised there was no chop when they were down to 20 or 10 people?
There was that chop that tried to happen when there was 13. Obviously I'm glad that didn't happen. But it kind of caught me by surprise. I thought it was a little bit too early with a little bit too many people, but it was also one of those things where I was in on it. I didn't want to get left out on the cold. I'm getting random DMs on Twitter from, an attorney here in town who's helping organize this. And I'm like, well, I don't want to get shut out on this. But in the long run, I'm glad it didn't happen.
So for people who make a deep run next year and they're looking to monetize it, but they don't want to go your route because you were confident, obviously, in your picks. You only had 2 games, you said, that were close calls.
Yeah.
That's abnormal.
Yeah.
Like, typically, in a 20-week season like it is out here, you're going to have 5, 6, 7 close calls.
Yeah.
You avoided that. Would you have any problems for people next year? Like, let's say they get down, the ticket's worth $100,000 at one point. Any problems whatsoever selling that ticket if they wanted to?
I mean, it's up to the individual person. For me, this contest was always part of the gamble, right? I'm one of those guys that helps build these palaces. When I come out here, I'm not looking to sit down at a blackjack table and grind it out for 6 hours to make a couple $100. I play the games that the house has a much bigger edge, but you can win the progressive. So for me, this contest was always about getting to the end and winning the big prize. So I never had really any thought of selling a piece off. If I lost my entry in week 16 and I didn't monetize it and I was out $7,000, I was going to be fine with that. But it's up to the individual.
It is totally. You got to be fine mentally with that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, you had Philadelphia on Christmas Day and not Kansas City, which everybody did.
Yeah, well, right. So I had 7 entries. 6 of them were gone by week 5. And it just so happened, I actually went back yesterday and looked at them because the only thing I really planned out were the holiday games. And of the 7 entries, 2 of them I had reserved Dallas and Philadelphia. And the rest was a mixed match of either Detroit. It was going to be either Detroit or KC. So I was just lucky that the entry that happened to make it through was one that I had reserved Dallas and Philly for.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Great job. Unbelievable run.
Yeah, I appreciate it, yes.
Have fun with the money.
Yeah, well, I haven't even thought about that yet.
You don't know what you're going to do with it yet?
No, come on.
I actually think that I'm going to just give it to my financial advisor, let him deal with it for the first 6 months, and then maybe after 6 months, if I want to buy myself something nice or something like that, I'll do that.
His name is Rob, Indiana Jet on Twitter, took down Circa Millions. Congratulations again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. The props are phenomenal. You'll get lost in all of them. The creativity off the charts. We went over some of them earlier. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Use this code VEGAS to get the bonus. Code VEGAS. The crown is yours.
Oh, yeah. Thanks to Rob, Indiana Jet. He won a couple of million as one of 4 people to take down Circa Survivor this year. That thing was worth $9.2 million. Any guesses what it's going to be worth next year?
12?
Yeah. I put a minimum of 12 on it.
He referenced Billy Chippis, too, who was in studio a couple years ago. He had the Chiefs' final game on a Saturday for all the marbles and would have got the $1 million bonus. He bet more on Kansas City. He thought they'd blow him out. Denver was driving late inside the 10 to go up 2 scores. Fumble, scoop, and score, Kansas City the other way. He did give the gambling gobs the middle finger, but it worked out for him But that guy, I mean, he hasn't thought about what he's going to do with the money. He only started hedging in week 17. I mean, that was a wild story to get. Some guys have hedged way too much and started hedging a lot, and didn't really make a ton of money. And you have Jet, who cleaned up and only hedged week 17. Wild how different people treat it differently and how they go through things. Not going to sell it. I'm not doing anything. I'm riding this out.
Here we go. Little breaking news again today. As the Patriots did not wait long, they have announced that Gerard Mayo is going to be the successor to Bill Belichick. Mayo announced 10 minutes ago, not even, as the new head coach of the New England Patriots. He had this in his contract.
Yep.
Is that some of the details that we're getting right now?
Yep. Press conference next week.
Okay. So he was one of the shortest shots on the board to get that job, along with Mike Vrabel. So in his contract, he's going to be the guy. That, again, leaves plenty of really good candidates out there, man, for open jobs right now. You have Vrabel, Belichick, and Harbaugh just top of mind.
Yeah, someone's going to scoop up Vrabel. And that still could be a team that's playing this weekend. Decides, hey, we got to get over the hump. But
Let me say potentially Harbaugh. We don't know that yet.
Yeah, right. But I thought this was a slam dunk a couple months ago, but then you didn't know what was going to happen with Belichick. And then once Vrabel became available, you thought, okay, well, he's going to go back Patriot way. But written in the contract, and this was the plan all along, he was going to be the successor to Belichick. So out yesterday, and here's the new coach today. And I don't know how this is going to go. Well, rave reviews about people in the organization and the players, and the Crafts love them, but you don't have a lot to work with. So is this a blow it up and start over and let's see what this rookie quarterback's going to be? And that just starts, we'll see with whoever they take as a quarterback if the guy can play. Because certainly they don't have a good quarterback on the roster, and they're going to have to start over.
Again, very early here. We have 4 months basically until the draft. And I'm dipping my toes into that racket already, and I have been for a while. Plenty of steam on Jaden Daniels to go very high, and in fact, that's like the most common pick now. Is
would you do that?
Third overall.
That's risky.
I would. To me, every quarterback is a little risky.
Yep. Would you fall off your chair if May is available?
No.
I wouldn't, with trades and everything.
No, I would not.
Yeah.
No. What if the Bears trade down from 1 to 2? Commanders take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. Bears are picking number 2. They can't find another trade partner, and they decide to go Marvin Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
Would that shock you?
No.
The fact that they kept Eberflus and basically gutted the rest of the coaching staff, there's a thought here that they're going to bring new offensive coaches in and want to keep Fields. Mistake or not, I mean, that's whatever. That could happen now. I could see that being a possible ending spot here for the Bears. And then, what kind of a quarterback will Drake May turn into? I know people love him. Doesn't matter. We've heard this about countless quarterbacks in the first round, top 5, top 10 for many, many years. Same thing about Daniels. And I got to know the other movement, though, too. Like, how many other trades are we going to possibly get? That would really shock the Cardinals. Saw it 4.
But who's to say they don't trade up to take Harrison?
Maybe.
That's possible. We've seen everything draft day. Bong masks. What happened with Warren Sapp. You have, crazy trades, stupid trades, giving up a haul just to move up a couple spots. And then the line about, well, we like this guy and we're going to move back. And then, and it turns out to be a bunch of bunk. No one had Joey Bosa to the Chargers at number 3. One of the best kept secrets. They knew they were going to do that in September, and nobody knew. So I wouldn't rule out Arizona moving up if they fall in love with Harrison because they're concerned maybe the Bears or someone take them ahead of them. You never know.
Who had the Bears moving from 3 to 2 in 2017 to take Mitchell Trubisky?
Yeah.
Anybody? That was wild, man.
Any more thoughts on Belichick? And do you think it's going to be Atlanta?
I think Atlanta, for some reason here, seems like the team where he might land. Again, our guest in this time slot yesterday said there's something to this where he might prefer the East Coast more than the West Coast. Has he thought it over completely if he doesn't go to the Chargers? That brand new stadium, you get to live in sunshine 365 days a year, and maybe Justin Herbert isn't as good as we once thought. I'd still take my chances on him. It's over some of these other spots where the quarterback is completely unknown, right? Because if you go to Atlanta, you like to think that Belichick has a lot of pieces to work with other than the most important position in the entire game. And what do they do? What if they continue to whiff at that position? Certainly possible.
Yeah. You also have to be comfortable with the owner. And he has an ego. He should. He's the greatest coach of all time. But does he hit it off with Blank? Does he get along with Harris? All that stuff's important too. Mm-hmm. Or he can wait it out and see what happens this weekend. What if, I'm telling you, if Mike McCarthy loses, I think he's gone. And then I wouldn't, what a home run that would be. But there's several here. Just go down the list of teams that are still available. I still think the Saints could be a fit. I would get rid of Dennis Allen already. This is nonsense.
Yep.
Come on, 9-8, and when the talent that they have, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you can point the finger at Carr, but they should have won that division and should have at least won 10 games with
Honestly,
that schedule.
What is the level of shock value to you if that does happen? Cowboys lose. All things considered, they lose 7-point favorites against Green Bay. They've been a juggernaut at home. Can't be slowed down offensively. And then 2 days later, Jerry Jones says, I'm cutting bait. McCarthy's gone. And then Belichick would land up in Dallas.
Not surprised. 28 years without a trip to the NFC title game.
Overall, but that's one of the juiciest...
And he's also running out of time.
It's one of the juiciest stories I could ever remember.
I mean, these guys, Mayo's... Yeah, right. No doubt. America's team, because he hasn't done it, other than the Parcells.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you fire Jimmy Johnson? That is ridiculous. And then you just recently put him in the Hall of Fame, or the Ring of Honor, whatever it's called. But Mayo's the youngest coach now, at 37, and Jerry's getting up there in age. I mean, to the fact that, is he going to be alive is he going to see a Super Bowl trip? That's probably what Kraft's thinking too. Kraft's up there in age. Kraft got sick and tired. He's got plenty of Super Bowls, 6 of them.
He wants more play. Not happy.
Yeah, 4 years, too long for me. I want to get back to the playoffs and doing something here. And Jerry Jones, it's 28 years of not even making a title game.
It depends on, does Jones get enough credit for a Super Bowl victory, or does it go to the head coach? Because if he's not getting enough credit, then he's not going to be happy with it, evidently.
That should be absurd, but it's a good question because that's how we got to the Barry Switzer nonsense. I mean, he was fired because he was getting too much credit and the ego on Jerry Jones.
I like betting first touchdown props in primetime games, so we'll see how many bets I end up landing on this weekend. They're all considered primetime to me at this point. Producer Stephanie here at VSiN does a great job every single week in the NFL tracking because these teams have a tendency or they rely on tendencies once they get down and around the goal line. It's happened for years going back. She tracks it every week. You can get it at vsin.com. I also tweeted it out yesterday at Mitch Moss Radio. Jerome Ford, here's an example for the Browns. He has scored Cleveland's first touchdown 7 times this year. 6 of those were the first touchdown of the game. CeeDee Lamb has scored Dallas's first touchdown of the game 7 different times. 5 of those first touchdown of the game. Green Bay scored the game's first touchdown in 8 straight games to finish the season. And Reed, their rookie wide receivers,
he's done it a lot.
Scored 4 of those. Yep. And he had another one earlier this year. So 5 first touchdowns of the game for him. Josh Allen has scored Buffalo's first touchdown 4 different times. With the Lions, it's bonkers because Amon-Ra St. Brown scored the first touchdown of the game 3 different times. None since week 6. Sam Laporta, we don't know if he can play. He scored Detroit's first touchdown in 5 different games. And Montgomery and Gibbs scored their first touchdown 4 different times. So it's either been St. Brown, Laporta, Montgomery, or Gibbs. You know what you're getting here. The difficult part is trying to figure out which guy it's going to be. But if Laporta doesn't play, that narrows it down a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
I always bring up the example of teams in the past. Like there was a stretch where Green Bay, every time they got close, by like the 5-yard line, it was going to Devontae Adams. Like almost every single time when Rodgers and Adams had that connection. So it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Adam Chernoff is going to join the program coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on all these games for Super Wildcard Weekend, what he's looking for, maybe some player props as well. That's all coming up here in the final hour of today's program.